As I bring this up, okay, there we go. Okay. All right, I'm calling the meeting to order at 11:17. And Sherry Williams, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I get a roll call? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, my usual. Are you 12? Thank you.
Berkowitz,
Here.
Butler,
Here.
Ortiz. Oxley. Trainier,
Yes, present.
Winfrey,
Here.
Newquist.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is the approval of minutes. First for April 1st. Can I get a motion?
Second, Trinier.
Roll call, sorry.
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Ortiz. Oxley,
Yes.
Trainier,
Yes.
Winfrey,
Yes.
Newquist.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. And now can I get approval of minutes for the special meeting on April 16th? Motion Trinier,
Second.
second Winfrey. Can I get a previous Berkowitz? How about a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? All right, motion passes. Old business, we have the RNG facility financial summary. Yeah. I need to turn you on. Oh, yeah, can you push your buttons? Mm. Okay, you're good.
Okay. Chair Newquist, committee members, good morning. Thank you for having us here. My name is Greg Comperta. I am the project manager for the RNG facility, for those of you that don't know, but I think you all do. Beside me is Dave Hartke, Director, Land Use RE Division. We are here to present the update for the RNG facility. What I'll do is go through some numbers and kind of just summarize what we went through, and then towards the end, we'll cover like a little summary of everything else, but here we go. I guess start with numbers. We'll talk February, March, and April here to start with. So February, we're looking at about 68,600 or so MMBTUs of production. So February was a good month. If you look at revenue, it was about 1.15 billion for that month. So that was a great month. We ran about 94.7% runtime for the entire 28 days into the pipeline. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Moving on to March, we were down to 51,254 MMBTU. That translates to about 500,000 in gross revenue. That was a rough month. I'll go into some details here in the next section, but in the end, during that month, we ran about 66% of our time. So that's, if 100% be every day through the month, we ran about 66%. Or that's about 20 or so days of runtime for the month. April, the numbers in front of you are from the middle of April, because when I sent this out, it wasn't updated, but I do have an update. So April was a great month. We have not been down at all for a single minute since the 13th of April. So we have been running 100% since then. For a month, we ran 95.3%. When everything's said and done, they'll probably translate to about an estimated 1.15 million in gross revenue. It's all gross numbers. So April's looking good. And so far, at this point, we don't have anything really projected to happen. So At least nothing planned. Some challenges. February, we'll go month by month. Not bad at all. That was a good month. So we lost about 34 hours just to regular operations and maintenance repairs for a whole month. March, that's where we had the bigger issue. One of the problems we had is we have, for those of you that were there, we have those large compressors, and we have two compressors that are identical to each other, called vacuum compressors. One of those failed early in March. We had a spare motor. We installed it. We had some electrical issues. We lost about 4 or 5 days trying to find that, ended up being a ground fault. Got the unit up and running again. Then we lost the second unit about 6, 7 days later. The problem was we had one spare for both units. So when the second unit failed, we didn't have a spare. Started making phone calls, trying to figure out what to do. We found a place, or we had a place already, but they were able to rebuild our unit in 5 days. So they worked through the weekends, late nights, and from the time they took our motors, both of them, the time to return, we got back 5 days up and running. Fantastic. At least that part was. So that resolved that issue. But in the end, for the month of March, we were down about 10.5 days, which translates over to 66.4%. Then on April, early in the month, we had some, if you remember the storms we had, we lost a few hours for power loss. Not much we could do there, power outages. And then one valve failure for the month, but in the end, that was only 12 hours for the entire month of April. So April was phenomenal, and that's what we want going forward, is to keep running like that. Why don't we go over a few achievements here? I mentioned the vacuum compressors. We got those motors repaired quickly. We had another unit under bigger compressors fail that's different from these, but that didn't cause a downtime because we had a spare compressor and a spare motor. So we had those switched out without shutting down, kept on going, and that motor is out for repair, hopefully under warranty. We had a fire marshal inspection. Took about 6 days, no downtime. That was just my time, 6 days with them. And we have positive results for that. So all our vessels are inspected and filed with the U.S. Fire Marshals. We renewed our insurance, and we had a decrease of 1.67% in our rates. So we have a little bit of savings there for the year. And during that downtime, obviously, we did as much as we can to prevent future downtime by doing maintenance, oil changes, filters, anything we can to make sure we utilize running time as much as possible. Few expenditures we will have here. Spare parts. I mentioned we had those motors fail. We have only one spare for those two compressors. We have an order out, actually a PO request, and we will be ordering another motor for those two units. So those two units will have a spare each, so this doesn't happen again. The one that failed on us, we had rebuilt. We have that. The second identical one will have its own. So if this happens again in the next few years, this circumstance won't reoccur. That's how we learn over time as we go with this. There's one more motor I need to order for our chiller unit, which for some reason we didn't have one. It's not as critical a unit as everything else, but we should have it, and that's also on order. Both of those motors about 35,000 each, 35 to 38. But in the end, every single major unit will have its own single spare. And that's one of the biggest issues we had before. Like, we had 3 of the same units, 1 or 2 spares. And I guess before this was built, historically, maybe it wasn't planned that they would fail that fast. But now we learn as we go that we need these, and we increase our inventory and, compensate for it. Some efforts we're doing to improve production. Dave and I will be visiting a few plants, a few other RNG plants. We've been contacting management from sites in Illinois and Wisconsin, and we have planned tours. We'll go discuss with their management and how they run their facilities and with their technicians to see what differences they have between us and them. Hopefully learn and apply whatever we learn to our RNG plant to, better our uptime and make things run better. Moving on to the budget numbers. So this budget was run on 21st of April. Our total expenses for the year were about $3 million. Total revenue just under $3 million. which came out to negative 85 for that time frame. Does not include any revenue from April, though. This is back to March. So we don't have, at this point, we don't have April revenue yet. Some good news to end with here. I was trying to figure out how to give you a good correlation or comparison from year to year. So what I did, and if you go to that chart, the chart I put up with the graph. So that kind of shows yearly production. The red line is 2024. The black line is 2025. It's kind of difficult to interpolate from that if exactly we're doing better. Obviously, the black line is in most part higher than the red. So what I did is I added up the numbers for total production to compare the two. So from the numbers I add up are issued beginning of December. They're graphs in the goes for January. But anyway, so for 2025, if you use this as a gas gauge, the total amount of natural gas we produced in 2024 was about 175,000. All right. In 2025 so far, for the same time period, we're at 262,157. So this year we have produced 66% more than last year. So as a general overview, that shows our production rates have increased without taking everything else into account, that we're going the right direction. And actually, as it looks currently, we have no major outages planned. We're doing everything we can to keep things running steady, at a steady state, and go from there. I include some pictures. We don't have to go through them, but if everybody's interested to see what kind of work was done, that's the failures we had in the major compressors and changeouts. So just to give everyone an idea, a visual, how that looked. And that's what I had. Any questions?
Yes, I know I've got questions and I see some other committee members do too. What caused the bearings to overheat, or if that's the right term?
It's, that's a common problem we've had in this plant. Is it's kind of like the bearings of your car. Once they fail, your motor locks up, and it's the same with the electric motors. That is something we're trying to figure out. I can tell you it's not uncommon talking to other operators that these similar units have had similar problems. The two that failed this time did run 2 years straight. So it's more on the normal side. We had problems earlier with the larger feed compressors. That was more abnormal.
Mhm.
And we're seem to be doing better with those. But these two specifically did go for since the beginning. They were never changed out.
Okay.
So wear and tear, vibrations, heat, there's a lot of things that can happen there. When it comes to O&M, these units are greased on a schedule per manufacturer recommendation. So that's ruled out. It's a lot of it's alignment. It's a lot of things, but we did get 2 years out of them. And the fact that both of them went up at the same time, it's probably more towards wear and tear.
So I'm assuming we're going to factor that into our maintenance or replacement schedules going forward.
Which is why we have,
Okay.
another spare.
Right.
And so this time we'll have one for each one.
Okay.
And then going back to spares, instead of buying any more spares in the future, there's a place in Addison that's being used to rebuild these at a much
Great.
lower rate, and they're pretty quick.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
anytime we lose one, it goes to rebuild it, we get it back, it's back in our inventory.
Great. And then Julie and then
Thank you.
Jackie.
All right, so you then have a maintenance schedule. You have an existing maintenance schedule that addresses the motors, levers, and what does that maintenance schedule tell you now, right now, that you need to maintain these motors? Is it every 2.5 years? You let them go for 2 years.
So
What does the maintenance
the
schedule
maintenance
say?
schedule will give you a greasing schedule, how often to lubricate. They will not give you a life expectancy, as far as I know.
Okay.
The schedule is.
Why
to
is that? Because everything has a life expectancy and that needs to be part of the scheduled plan.
That also that I have to look into, because that comes from the manufacturer of each particular unit, how to.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So we, the county, needs to have that factored into our maintenance schedule. So if the life expectancy that we get from the manufacturer is 2 years, well, we need to start maybe at the 1-year point, examining, inspecting this piece of equipment, no matter what it is, at 1.5 year, and maybe even month, check out each of these pieces of machinery in that plant. So maybe at 1.5 years, we would have identified that there was something in the motor that could fail or was showing wear or, that's pretty critical. I think if you have a maintenance schedule, I would love to have that sent to the board just so we can kind of take a look at it. Dave, did you want to?
I just wanted to briefly state, so your concern is that there's a maintenance schedule. So one thing we need to understand also, there's an electronic monitoring system, like a computerized system that monitors the bearing heat, the heat range or the temperature that the bearings are on these compressors while they're operating. So that helps us to see if that motor is those bearings are getting hot. We know that it's going to be time we either have to re-grease it or they're going to be replaced soon. What we don't want to do is replace something prematurely. So we talked to some of these operators, they've had motors like this that have operated for 10 years, same motor. In some cases, we just replaced a motor in December. By end of January, it failed. So in some cases, a designated life expectancy printed on a box or on the motor sometimes doesn't have a whole lot of merit that we can put on that. So we really need to, we focus on lubing the bearings. I think that's a monthly basis that we do that. So we have an operator that goes around to every single motor and he's lubing those with there's a grease insert, actually like you would see on the older cars on their different suspension parts. These vehicles or these motor bearings have the same thing. So that is done on a regular basis. We have original equipment manufacturer grease that we use on these bearings. So that's the primary maintenance that we can do for that. And that is done. And then we have those bearings are then constantly monitored for temperature. So those are the major things.
What was the cause of the failure for both motors at basically the same time?
Sometimes that's hard to determine for sure, but a lot of times it could be just a little bit of vibration. Sometimes that's hard to detect. Sometimes you can just put your hand on that motor and feel it. But a little bit of vibration can cause a bearing to fail a little bit sooner than not.
So
Sometimes,
since we had 2 motors fail, is there a potential problem there that we're not aware of? Is there a vibration problem?
So if there was, when the new motors were installed, engineers come in and realign and readjust everything. So it's done fresh.
So the operator of the plant, are they the ones that get that measurement of the heat?
yes.
Are they reporting that to you? Was there any indication that there was a high heat level?
I can answer for these in particular, it was quick. It was a nice straight line and then it increased. And once it came up to level, it was shut down before catastrophic damage occurred. That way the motor could be repaired with minimal charge because if you keep going with it, it'll start rattling and everything. So it was shut down when the elevated temperatures were shown on the SCADA or electronic system. So it's a safety to prevent maximum damage by catching things early. So it was a straight line, nice temperatures, and then like within 5 minutes it started creeping up and then it was shut
When you
down.
meet with the other RNG plant facilitators, maybe you want to see, are there different manufacturers for this equipment? If there is, does anybody have the same type of equipment? Is anyone experiencing this? If someone can have 10 years on a motor and then we're only getting 2, there's something going on here. So I think that we really kind of need to look at that. The other thing is looking at our expenses. our highest expense, it continues to be electricity.
Yes.
So I've asked in the past, is there any possibility, any type of solar that can be put out there? We've got a lot of open land there.
We have looked at solar before. If we install solar on the building, it'll pay, it will provide over years' time 0.01% of the electricity for that plant. But we do need to realize most of that land there, we need to keep it open and flexible for when we decide to, as we work on expanding, we need to first figure out what we're going to need or not need. The only way to save expenses on electricity there is to shut the plant down. You have compressors that take 4,000 kilovolts to operate. It's a very expensive cost for that plant. There's really no way to get rid of that cost unless you just don't operate it.
So there's no solar system that we can install that will create power that we can use for our own operations on that site. I mean, they're telling us it's economical for homeowners, but it's not, there is nothing.
Well, you need to consider the grand scale here. I mean, this plant, this RNG plant consumes more electricity than every single county building put together.
I understand that, but we're looking at reducing the electrical costs. So you're saying it's negligible. You put out
Solar, yeah.
point.
If we maybe have 1,000 acres of farm field and we make that a solar farm, it might be able to provide a huge amount of the electricity, but we don't have that.
Okay, so
possibility.
I've seen some systems where they have a post and then they have a giant panel, like 8 foot by 14 foot. Those types of systems aren't available?
They're available, but it's not practical is the problem right now.
Okay, thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jackie, go ahead. Oh, I gotta turn you on, sorry. Where are you? Oh. What happened? Are you on? Yes, okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate how well you guys are managing. I would call it a little bit of chaos. And it's not your fault. I mean, it is just what happens, right? And my question actually initially was going to be, did you purchase the second motor? And then I looked further down in the thing and you mentioned it that you did. There's no way to predict these things. That's all I can say. As a homeowner, with appliances that go out, they just die and you wonder
That's a
why.
challenge.
Yeah, yeah. I am sure you're following all the recommended maintenance and I am really certain that you're paying attention to the conditions of the building because I know that that's a critical factor and that's what we pay you for. And I'm guessing when you speak with other operators, you are constantly comparing notes and ideas and
Constantly.
thoughts. And I don't need to grill you on any of that because I know you care about your job and you want to
Thank
keep
you.
it.
I hope-
And you'd like us to make some money in the process. And it looks like February and April were really good months and we're just going to have a few marches. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Dan and then David.
Thank you. I'm just looking at some of these numbers. Is the machinery, the extra parts we have to buy, where that's listed in here for like 125,000?
Yes.
Okay. And would you say that's like an upkeep cost? We're just keeping on, or you said it'll reduce when you rebuild? rather than
Once we
rectify?
have the core, which I believe we're just about there, that should reduce. But what charges will be in there is when we get rebuilds, which are about 50% of replacement costs, more or less.
Yeah.
So if you have $100,000 motor, you're probably about 45 to 50% to rebuild it, depending how much damage there is.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of the RNG plant. Like, it's one part of government that actually I feel is very productive and helps to lower the tax burdens. So, but I am concerned about just planning, not the plant itself. So on the, would you say, how much would you say we're netting on the RNG right now?
Netting, so I'll give you some numbers. So operations, if you go on average, this number's crunching last year, for last year and year before, it's about per month, around 850 to 900 to operate it, 1,000. So with the
Seven-
debt service.
7 million a year? What is that?
So that's 10, about 10 and a half. About 10 and a half a year.
10.5 million.
Yes.
And so the projected to
So-
pay off the bonds at the time?
With the bonds.
No, I
that-
meant like, so we're still on schedule to paying the bonds off on time, or will it get pushed back a little?
I don't believe we're gonna push back.
Right now, it's a 12-year bond.
What?
It's 12 years. It's a 12-year bond that we have. It's about $4.6 million a year that we have to pay down onto that bond each year. Currently, we're on schedule. Should be understood that if every month we're producing like February and April, then would have net revenue at the end of the year. Right now, 5 months into the fiscal year, we've had 3 months that weren't so hot, and we've had 2 months that were really good. So we needed another month really to catch us up closer to even to make up for that third month we weren't good. And then if we're able to manage it and avoid any shutdowns that are of any length of time and have good months for the rest of the year, we should have a net revenue by the end.
So after paying our electric and our bonds and all of our expenditures for running the plant, we're up.
Right now, I would not say that we're up. Right now,
No,
we're
not
probably, we're about 85,000. If we're not considering April, we don't have April's numbers in, but we're about 85,000 under
month?
net. No, 85,000 for the fiscal year under
year.
net.
85,000. Okay, so we're getting pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody. I mean, we can't close this down, right? We're not gonna pay these bonds off like by taxing people. The idea is in what, you said 4 years or?
The 12 years
12
is the
12
entire
What is
bond.
Left.
Left, we would have about, would be about 8 years left.
So 8 years, in 8 years, this will be a great boon for the
Mhm.
county, okay? So I just wanted to know if it was gonna affect the payoff of those bonds, but it sounds like,
It should not. We're hoping to have net before
okay,
8 years out.
that's my main concern.
Okay.
May I add one thing too?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing to consider as time goes on is anticipate that the volume from LIFO will also increase, hence increase our revenue as time goes on. So that's a trajectory on itself going up over time.
Just one last quick curiosity. So the temperature makes a big difference. The hotter it is, the better the production of the methane, or doesn't it matter?
It really doesn't matter too much.
So cold weather, warm weather, doesn't matter.
It matters more on our equipment and failure
Gotcha.
than production gas.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yes, what was the nature of the failure of the motors? Were this the bearings, the windings, motor alignment?
Bearings were getting warm. They're reaching at temperatures above 250, I think, degrees, at which point they were shut down. And that was the main failure.
There was a slight vibration on those compressors too, so there was
So
some
was it
alignment
alignment
issues too
Between
with it.
motor and the compressor or?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. I could say that since we have the motors replaced, you could tell actually physically the vibration compared to what was before is much less. They run very nicely now. So there has been a change when we placed the motors. I couldn't tell you why it dropped, but it's much better than it was before. I was pleased with that.
Jackie?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
just to follow up, because Mr. Oxley's question really got me thinking. So did they do something different when they rebuilt the motors, or it was just how they aligned them when they put them back in?
And that's difficult to tell because the original came from manufacturer. What failed was all original equipment as they came from.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's something I'd ask we can ask our operators, see the idea, but it's hard. At this moment, it's hard to tell.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions, anybody? Okay, thanks very much, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, next we have the select sales taxes and cannabis taxes report that's attached. Karen, do you want to come up and say a few words? Yeah, I think, are you, let's see, let's turn that. Can you hit your green, your button? Thank you.
Good morning. So we have an update for select sales taxes. So these are not all the taxes we collect. These are the primary ones. This is through March 31st. I usually like to do my report for a month that's completed and we're beyond, because otherwise things still get recorded and it's hard to go back and recreate it then. So the first table we're looking at has the fiscal year 25 budget for these select taxes and what we've actually collected and the percent of the budget. As of March, which would be 4 months into our fiscal year, we would expect, if everything were even, to have collected about 33%. These sales tax all have a 90-day processing before we receive them. So while we're a little bit under the 33%, when we get to the next table, I'll explain why we aren't really concerned about that yet. So did anybody have any questions about that first table? Nope. Okay. So the next table is comparing liability months. So the liability month is when we've been through the 90-day process and we've actually received it. So here we're comparing fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 24 for the same period of time. And you can see there's only two that are slightly down, $23,000, $45,000. The others are all up. So not up significantly, but overall the collections are a little higher to date. And
Questions, anybody? Okay.
okay. The next table is the final results for fiscal year 24. Again, the budget, what we actually collected and any variance. Personal replacement or personal property replacement tax is one that the state plays with. It goes up, it goes down. So that's the variance there. Local use tax is slightly lower than what we budgeted. Every other case, and for every other line, we well exceeded what we budgeted. The budget for revenue is very conservative. We never want to overestimate, but revenue, we always would maybe estimate or as low as possible because you don't want to plan on revenue coming in to cover expenses. And if it doesn't materialize, then you're eating into your reserves.
Karen, I just have one quick question. I know you've answered this before and I just can't remember. What does the supplemental tax include?
It's the 0.25. Actually, I provided the description of them because
Oh,
I only
missed
know
that.
them as
Sorry.
their names. So the supplemental is 0.25 of the sales tax. So
Okay.
we don't have our own sales tax. I mean, we do for cannabis and
Right.
motor fuel, none of these. The state collects these sales taxes and we get a portion of it.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, Jackie, let me turn you on. Hold on one second. Oh, that's not you. I just turned Karen off instead. Hold on. Oh, yeah, Karen, you've got to do your, right.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Oh, I
You got to turn her back on now.
Yeah, I thought. And I just turned Jackie off. Jackie, I'm sorry. Can you? I know. Can you hit your green button? Oh, I know. I just did the
Nobody
wrong
touch anything.
line.
No touching.
Sorry.
There were some concerns voiced a couple years ago when I talked about spending some money out of reserves to compensate some of our employees that were totally not being compensated appropriately. But at any rate, my question is, how are we doing on reserves these days?
We measure our cash reserves at the end of the year. And what the measurement is, do we have enough on hand at the end of the year to cover the first 6 months of expenses because we don't collect any property taxes. That money is not locked in a vault anywhere. It's just a measurement. At the end of the year, we exceeded the 25% threshold. If we're well over 25, the board can decide that they want to spend it. We try not to use it for budget because that's a no-no.
One-time expenditures.
One-time expenditures, defined if there's a renovation project or you need equipment, something like that, but one time, otherwise you shouldn't do that.
Right. What percentage are we at right now? Do
You know what? I don't have the number in
We're
front of
over
me.
25.
We're
Uh-oh,
over 25.
You got a guy in the back that might have that number.
As of the end of February, there was still a little over 13% in reserves.
Okay,
So that threshold of 25 was there at December 1.
right.
We chewed through it a little bit down to 13.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And we're
Fran.
at
Of
May,
the operating budget.
right, and we're at May, so the end of May is when we start doing
The tax.
property tax distribution. So we've safely gotten through the period
Mhm.
where one of our major funding sources for the corporate fund will start.
Right. Thank you. That was my concern. Just
And-
wondered where we were.
Julie, go ahead.
So if we're at 13%, will we have the ability to get it back up to 25%?
We have since 2008, when we started measuring it, we've either met or exceeded the 25% reserve threshold every year. So-
And this year will be no different. We will
I
get it
don't-
back up to
Right.
25.
I don't see anything happening at this point, 4 months into the year, that would lead me to believe that anything else would happen. It would, there isn't any,
Unless we tap into reserves again.
but we would have to make the effort to do that.
But if it happens, so we're at 13% and the goal would be to get back up
Up
to.
to 25.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Judy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So cash reserve is different than contingency, right?
Contingency is a budget term where, we try to balance every fund in the budget. So contingency is for things you don't know that are going to happen. It's a budget line. It has nothing to do with cash.
Correct, okay. And I appreciate the explanation about cash reserves. That fluctuates all year long because,
And again, we only measure at the end of the year, so we know we have enough to get through the drought of property taxes. I mean, maybe that's not the correct
well,
word.
it's sort
but
of, right, yeah. Because we're not collecting property taxes.
Right.
During the beginning of it, sort of like the end of the last year
Mhm.
before the new year comes, right? And I'm glad that she explained that with cash reserves, you don't ever want to spend it on a budget item except for one-time items, because then once you spend it on a budget item that's repetitive, such as salaries, that never goes away. But if we need to purchase something, because new fuel pumps, if they didn't have new gas tanks, if we didn't have it in MFT for some odd reason, we could have used that. That'd be a one-time purchase that's good for 10, 20 years. But you don't ever want to pay salaries out of cash reserves because it's not a one-time. Might be one time that you take it out of cash reserves and put it into a salary line, but that salary line stays and you pay it every year for eternity. So thanks for that explanation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dan?
Sorry, I just get kind of confused with all these numbers, but so when is it that you want to have 25% in there?
November 30th of at
So
the
as long
end of
as you
every
have
year.
25% at
Of the
November,
upcoming year's budget. So the board has a resolution ordinance defining the measurement process. At November 30th, we look at all our cash investment, any bank accounts we have set up for the corporate fund. It doesn't affect special revenue funds, for the corporate fund. And we want those to sum at minimum 25% of the budget you've just adopted for the next fiscal year.
and so you said in May, when we start collecting taxes, because like from December or January to May, we kind of use a lot of that. But then once we start collecting taxes, we're putting money back into it. And
Right.
that's the space cushion, or the cushion, I should just say, that. that pays for
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
So then you know, when you make a decision to tap into that, as long as you're not going past the 25, it's reasonable.
I believe the ordinance says if the threshold drops below 22% or it is above 27, 26%, the board can take action. You don't have to, but if it's dropping below 25 and it seems like it's going to be something that's going to continue, you definitely want to address it, which would be cutting your budget.
So,
You spend less.
so when that ask is made, is it only made in that last month or December, or can that ask be made at any time during?
Let me backstep a little bit. Part of the reason we adopted the cash reserve policy was in conjunction with ratings, our bond ratings. One of the things they look at is changes, fluctuations in fund balance. The corporate fund is the largest operating fund in the county. All the elected officials have their operations in there. So that's the focal point. When the rating agencies look at a big drop in fund balance is sometimes a negative thing. So they prefer that when you have a one-time use, it goes through the budget process. So if we know our reserves have been exceeding 25% and there's a need that everyone agrees upon, you would include it in your budget. So that would be the process, unless there's something catastrophic, then you would have to do it through your committee process.
So if you were to do it through the committee process, would there be a specific time, or that could happen anytime?
Could happen anytime.
And so the proper way to do it by doing it through the budget, would that happen like during the regular budget time? Like you can't just after the budget say, hey, we want to dip into cash reserves and use it for this.
I mean, the process works best when either a department presents a need, the executive presents something that she feels needs to be addressed in the budget, or the county board, when it's your turn to review the budget, you feel that there's something that needs to be addressed that would require use of cash reserves.
So-
I don't think it's a silo thing. I think,
So it can happen at any time during the year.
yes.
I'm just trying to get a clear picture in my head.
Preferably during the
Like,
budget process.
It seems like
but-
when you know how much money you have, you're a little bit over, you got this much to play with. That's the way I run my bank account anyway. But, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a few years ago, we had quite a surplus in cash reserves. And I believe the board voted, finance brought it to our attention in our finance meetings. And I believe the board voted, I don't remember exactly what we funded, but we funded something with the cash reserves because they were like at 30% or something
Yes.
like that. So just to give you an example of how that would work.
Just be aware, ARPA's going away, so.
Yeah, well,
We've
yeah,
been lucky the last
exactly.
couple of
We've been
years.
very
We've had
lucky.
CARES and ARPA. We've had a lot of federal support to
Yeah.
cover some of the things that we need.
Which is why our cash reserves built up so much,
Exactly.
so. Okay.
Exactly.
Any other questions, Julie?
Yes, Karen, I have some questions about cannabis. So
Okay.
it appears, based on these two charts, that the tax revenue has been decreasing. It says here for fiscal year 2025, it's much lower than the previous years. So you've got fiscal
is-
year,
So can Tim, can you move?
Yeah.
So jump a few pages ahead. So that's just extra information. Okay, so here we go with the cannabis.
So
The
when-
top chart is comparing budget to what we've actually
oh, wait,
collected.
that's not the chart I'm looking, oh, hold on. Okay, now I've got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
the next one is comparing collection liability months. So it's comparing last year to this year,
Mhm.
only for a few months of collections. So the state sales tax is up by $1,500. The other one is down by almost 7,000. I wouldn't be, I don't find that concerning. Typically, The county option is over $1 million a year, so $7,000 isn't necessarily a significant difference this early. Because this is through December, so it's like 1 month of collections.
Okay, can you go down to the bottom graph, please?
So the bottom is just
Inception to
collections,
date.
inception to date. So from
Yeah.
fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 25. So for 25, it's only the 1 month. So this is everything we've collected from when these started in fiscal year 20
Okay,
through March of
Okay, so
25.
fiscal year 25 is only the 1 month, and that's why it's so much smaller. Okay,
Right,
I
because we're
see.
just at the beginning
But
of
I
that
think
year.
what I'm seeing here, though, is it's, if there is an increase, it isn't a great increase in the tax we're getting every year.
If you look at the end, the last column,
Mhm.
so 1.3, I mean, it went up a little bit. In fiscal year 24, we ended at 1.4.
Mhm.
I don't think you're going to see giant growth.
Mhm. And where does so the tax money that we get, does that go to that committee, or where does that tax money go in the budget?
It goes to a special revenue fund.
Okay,
And the next page will tell you what we've spent that on so far. And
Okay.
again, using the budget process, it's been transferred, and there is a typo on there on the bottom, but I'll let you find it. That'll be the game. I don't have any candy or anything though, so it's just the win. So this'll, for fiscal year 23, these are the disbursements we made. Most of them are internal to the county. Fiscal year 24, again, some internal transfers to the county. And then we started the childcare grants. That process was developed by, I'm assuming a committee or a group. They're still working through those. And then for fiscal year 25, so I'll give it to you. That is
Yeah,
where
I was
the
gonna
typo
say.
is.
We have 2 fiscal year
Um,
24s.
So budget, to date for 25, we've done the internal transfers and we've paid, I'm assuming that's one small childcare grant. Well, they're up to $10,000. So they're on a reimbursement basis, so they don't get the full $10,000 unless they provide proof of expenditure.
so these distributions are all made with that two-party committee, right? Is that correct, Chuck?
I think this is done
The-
through the budget
Right.
process. I think you're thinking of opioid.
Who selects the allocation of these tax dollars?
It's done during the budget process. So there's a presentation made by the
Mm.
county executive and her version of the budget, and then the board reviews it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Julie, we voted on this last year. We had a presentation about numerous different.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
And at that time, we had questions and we were told to go to committee. If you have questions, then you should show up at committee.
Uh-huh.
But if this is coming through executive, she doesn't come to our committee meetings, and that's not part of our committee meetings.
No, I was talking about the
So-
budget process.
Yeah, Mhm.
How the budget process works is a proposal would be presented to the board by the county executive. She presents her version of the budget, and at that time, you have the ability to review and make changes if the
Well,
board has other options.
Which I believe happens at a meeting where everyone says you can't ask questions. So that's been a big problem. The reason why I'm asking about this is that some of this is going to back into the county, but some of these are going to organizations outside of the
Right.
county. So I would say, I would just like to know, the application process for these funds, is that, where is that, where's the transparency where people can look at these applications
So
and?
the applications come in through Amplifund, which is a grant management software that we purchased with ARPA dollars.
Okay.
Samantha Markham is managing that for the childcare and the small business grants. I'm not sure who set up the criteria for qualifying for the grant. I'm just here reporting on what we've spent.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Jackie, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, we had two-member committees. One dealt with opioids, the other one dealt with the cannabis fund money. But anybody could make a suggestion as to where you wanted to see this money go. And the county executive did, and some board members did. And we voted on it at budget time, and we agreed that the grants would be handled through the county executive's office, Samantha. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, and Chuck might correct me, but I think we were using the same criteria that we used for the ARPA applications. That's the way I recall this. And so it was basically the same format, same kind of questions. And these were all approved by us, because we are the final approver on the budget, unless, of course, the county executive vetoes it, which that hasn't happened. So at this point, it's been approved. We approved it. Whether we knew what we were approving or not, that remains, up to the individual board member to understand.
Thank you. Chuck, do you have something to add there?
I believe last year it was members Raquel Mitchell and Natalie Coleman were doing the reviews on this. And again, that was before my time, but I believe that they were presenting their findings to a committee. And a case in point, and that was on the cannabis funding. Case in point, today, we have a proposal before us, before this committee later on today, that will deal with the opioid funding as well. And Member Williams, Leader Williams, will present all, some information with regard to that as well, so.
So who replaced the previous committee, Raquel and Natalie?
That would be up to.
Yeah.
So it's Destiny and Vince. Okay, and then, so then when will you and Vince bring the nominations forward for us to be able to discuss it? Not vote on it, discuss it. Because when it's on the agenda for a vote, we're told we can't ask questions, we need to go back to committee.
This is.
Go ahead, Destiny.
Thank you, Chair. Myself and Vince have both been in communication with Samantha Markham as well as Marcy. We're just kind of figuring out where things went last year, how we want to move things forward this year. We're looking forward to possibly having a discussion about that next month, as we are in budget season right now. So look forward to that. And if you have any questions, you could reach out to either one of us.
Well, I'd like to go to the meeting.
It's not an official meeting.
But they'll present, you will
Is
present
there
at
a
some
reason we
point
can't
to
have
us,
a
correct?
meeting where
Well,
people
No, I
can
mean,
go and
but in the
ask
future.
questions?
well, in the case of the opioid funding, for example, today, they've got there's a request for a grant disbursement this at this committee meeting on a later agenda item. You'll have complete opportunity to ask any questions with regard to that, as you will with any item that is recommended for grant disbursement.
So this will happen in the next month or two because we're in the process. Thank you.
Okay, Micah and then Judy.
So, I remember when all of this came up, I was chair for the health and safety, and I really felt that it needed to come to the committee. But it was chosen to do just a two-person, and they were wonderful. They brought it toward our caucus. The caucus was given ample opportunities to give lists and ideas, and we discussed it. And then they brought it forth to finance where it was further discussed. And I'm hoping that'll be the same. I'm assuming it'll be the same process as it was last time, where we'll go to caucus and it'll come. There were so many emails and so many different chances to say, I would like it to go here, here, here. And I would assume that some of these things are not going to change because they're, very effective in our community. But that's how I remember the process being.
Judy, go ahead.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry, Chuck, wait,
No.
1 minute. Did you have an answer?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So they're not really committees, they're just working groups, two people, one Democrat, one Republican, to go through the different things. Opioid is very concise because they can only do certain things with those dollars. And a lot of that money we've kept and used within the county's budget as far as helping having different needs, whether it's the, uh, court system, what they needed for their housing, things like that. And then cannabis, looking at that, different ways to use it with grants, like you said, the child care grant and the small business. And then I think we had like the nursing and teachers, or that was ARPA dollars actually, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was our.
So we never had an update. We should get an update on that, which I guess we're getting that at maybe April, what'd she say, June? So that's it. And it should be discussed within the caucus. There's many different, and then it should be brought forward. Either it can be brought forward to finance committee, it could go to executive committee, whatever the chair how he wants to handle it. Yeah. And then you vote on it. So that way you can decide, yeah, I like it or not. And you should be contacting your representatives on those working groups and saying, I think this is a good idea, or that's a good idea. It's just to help bring it down to a smaller level where it can be negotiated, talked about, discussed, and then bring it forward. So nothing gets decided amongst those working committees themselves. Sherry Williams is here today. She's going to bring forward an idea. If you guys don't like the idea, you just vote no. That's it. So thanks.
Thank you. Dan?
So I just wanted to make a suggestion that we kind of stay germane to the topic at hand.
Okay, I kind of thought we were, but that's okay. Appreciate the comment. Okay, anybody else?
Okay, I just have two more quick things. Tim, can you go forward? So I added something different, just because it's budget time. Oh, is there not?
Is there second one?
Second one.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like a fun, like when your teacher gives you a worksheet to take home and play with. So this is, that part of the detail I use to do the report, so we can go through this one. And then the next two pages are showing the detail for 5 years. This is the cannabis for 5 years. The next one are the other sales tax for 5 years. And then the final one is a graph, so you can see the growth and the dollar amounts for each of these sales tax over the last 5 years. Completed years, so it wouldn't include 25. And then this is just a list of the definitions of the taxes.
I just have to say the graphs are way more fun on the spreadsheet.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. They don't, it's a lot of stuff to get on one page, so it's so small. I debated whether even providing it, but I spent a lot of time on it, so I
Yeah,
want you to know I'm working.
I like it. It really helps.
Oh,
Really helps illustrate.
all right. So no more questions. That's
Any-
all I have.
Doesn't look like it. Thank you,
All right,
Karen.
thank you.
Okay, moving on. I don't have any other old business listed. New business. We have a grant request for the opioid funds from Stepping Stones. Sherry Williams, let me turn your mic on and take it away.
Okay, and for those that didn't know, as Judy was saying, there's a team and it's myself and Katie Dean Schlattman. And so we go through and evaluate the groups that have come forward for us. So far, we actually gave money to Family Guidance and Hero so far. And Stepping Stones also was, they had come and made an initial request about a year ago. So it's been a while. The process that we're going through right now, Stepping Stones, we actually carved out of what we will be doing moving forward because they have been waiting so long. But the process we've worked on with Samantha Markham, and we actually have come up with the grant process. So that we'll be getting that information out to you very soon. We just did it the other day. So, but Paul from Stepping Stones had contacted me Katie and myself some time ago, and we went through his whole process. They are here to give a presentation. Okay. So they will be telling us what their program is all about. Katie and I are recommending that we move forward with that.
Okay, great. Please, you have a presentation. Let me turn on the mics. Thank you. Yep. I just need you to press the button so I can turn your mics on.
The executive director of Stepping Stones. We're a substance use treatment provider, been in Joliet for over 50 years, 54 years. We operate a residential treatment center that some of you might remember was Howard Johnson's Motel. We 2 years ago completed a major renovation of that facility. It was built back in the 60s, needed a lot of work. And if you've been by there, 1621 Theodore, you can see it. It not only provided for an expansion of services and a nice setting for the people that we serve there, but also I think was an improvement to the immediate neighborhood there. So, and we're grateful to the county for the support they gave us in being able to make that happen. The project that we're focused on now in our request here today is for $250,000 from the opioid settlement funds to help pay for expenses that we've already incurred in the construction of the facility. We're pretty much complete now. We expect to be have a final completion this next week by the building department city. So it's moved along. We're still short of what we need to be able to pay that. We do have a construction line of credit that can be converted to a mortgage. So we can make this thing work whether we get the 250 or not, but we would like to get the 250 if we can get it. It would reduce the amount of money that we would have to finance. I can tell you more about stepping stones and treatment, but I would ask Amy if she would like to comment. She can tell you more about.
Press your button there. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy. I completed treatment at Stepping Stones 11 years ago. I've been employed by Stepping Stones for 9 years. So the project that Paul is referring to right now is a level of care that was not there for me. I am a mother of 5 children. I came to this area from Whiteside County Jail, and my children were in foster care in Lockport. And in order to get my children back, you know, I was an addict. I'm in recovery from opioids. I needed treatment, but I also had to make a sacrifice because I could either do 14 days and try to go somewhere and try to get my own place to get my kids back, or I could attend longer term recovery to hopefully continue to have recovery for the rest of my life versus 14 to 28 days. And the program that Paul is referring to, the Women and Children's Place, was not available to me. So in order to get your kids back from DCFS, you have to have a certain amount of visits that are unsupervised and unsupervised overnights. There was no place that could provide that for me in this area at all, that DCFS would approve besides me getting my own place. So I attended the 90-day program and didn't get my kids back as soon as I could have, just so I could try to ensure that I could maintain long-term recovery and not have my children back and forth in and out of the system. So, and then eventually I got my own home and it was done like that. But this would provide women not having to sacrifice. Do I take care of me or do I take care of me and my children at the same time? So it would be a wonder. There's no other place like that here. Like, we are the only accredited recovery home, period, for women in Will County at all. But we have nothing for women and children. And generally, most women have to find a place for their children to be or leave them in the foster care system in order to get better. This would provide them with the ability to get better and be present in their children's lives.
Thank you. Micah, hold on one sec. Let me put your mic on. Okay.
So Amy, I appreciate you touching and sharing your story, but touching on the fact that the program is for women and children. It's a facility so that moms can stay with their children. And I mean, the counseling that's going to be encompassed is so good, because I'm assuming your children didn't get a lot of counseling, and to offer that while they're with their parent is so much better than pulling them apart. But if I'm correct, isn't there only 2 other, or is there 3 others in the entire state
I believe there are.
There are three others, so this would make the fourth in the entire state of Illinois. And that makes us kind of,
Oh, sorry.
I repeated it because this light wasn't on.
Thank you.
Did you?
So there were three
Yeah.
in the state.
Yeah, one in very southern Illinois and then a couple in the city in Chicago.
So this would like,
Wow.
And we lost one during COVID. Women's Treatment Center was shut down and it never reopened.
so I'm very much for this, and I hope that this committee sees the value and the forward thinking of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise?
Thank you. I'm just going to say, I'm familiar with the facility, as Paul knows that. And this is exactly what the opioid settlement money is intended for. So I would encourage us all to say, absolutely, yes, give them the money. We need this kind of facility.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other questions? Okay,
Second.
all right.
The motion to adopt the resolution.
Approve the 250,000.
To adopt the resolution.
Adopt the resolution.
And a second. Okay, I'll do a previous roll.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think you guys are doing a great job. Thank you. Okay, number 2. Committing funds for the University of Illinois Cooperative Extension. I need a motion.
Second, Berkowitz.
Do you have a previous?
Second.
Second? I should ask any questions before we vote. Okay, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, appropriating funds in the sheriff's budget. Nope, we've, I'm really sorry. I saw you guys coming up, but yes. Hold on one sec. Marcy's coming up here. Hold on, Marcy, let me, okay.
Rashawn and I just wanted clarification. Did you approve the resolution, which was for 50,000? You're talking about the U of I, correct?
Yeah.
You wanted-
75.
Okay, so if
Is
you
that
want to
what
do,
the
so they
resolution was?
requested 75. In our budget from the host fund, we only budget 50,000. So if you would like to do the full 75, which this committee has done in years previous, we will have to take that from contingency. We will amend the resolution. But if that's
Okay.
what you want to do, then you have to amend the resolution to the 75.
And my apologies, I misread that resolution. Okay. And we have a motion to amend the resolution for 75. We have a second. Do we have a previous and a second? And a second. Okay.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
We know where it's coming from, contingency.
Okay. Mr. Butler wants to be a no.
Yeah,
All right, let's do a roll call.
Haven't we talked about that enough?
Let's do a roll call. Thank you. Thank you, Marcy, and I apologize for misreading that resolution.
So
Yes.
first roll call vote is to change it from 50 to 75. Is that-
Yeah, hold on a sec. So this is a vote to amend the resolution that we just passed to 75,000 versus 50,000. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay. Okay, roll call, please.
Discussion?
Oh, hold on. You want discussion? Okay. Discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Butler.
So we talked about dipping into cash reserves and 25,000 of it is.
No, it's contingency.
Oh, contingency, okay.
Oh, can you press your button?
Okay.
again? Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. Let me turn on Perla's mic and, okay, roll call, please.
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Butler, Ortiz, Oxley,
Yes.
Trainier,
Yes.
Winfrey, Newquist.
Yes. Your motion
Motion
carries.
carries.
Thank you. One moment. Yep, Jackie?
Can we ask next year that, because this typically is what we ask for is the 75, that they just budget 50,000 out of the fees from waste management and another 25,000 added
Yeah,
to it?
that's fine.
I just,
It makes sense.
I mean, that's what we've been doing for many years now, so. I would just like it to show
Hold on,
this
let me
way
turn on.
going forward, starting next year, not this year.
Yeah.
This year's already
Oh.
done, but
So you want to increase the budget for this
yeah,
in their line item?
next year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just showing it in the budget. Right, instead of having to pull it out of contingency, have it actually be a
Just
line item
budget
in
it
the
to
budget.
75.
Mhm.
I think we can still do that for this year, correct, Marcy? Okay, Marcy's nodding, so,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Any other questions or discussion about this? Okay, the resolution passed. Number 3, appropriating funds in the sheriff's budget. And is there anybody who wants to say anything about this? Okay, hold on, we need a motion and a second first. Okay, and second, okay, go ahead. Jackie, hold on, I've got to turn on your, all right.
I just wanted to know what the equipment was. I mean, it just says equipment. I swear I didn't read what it was.
I thought I saw what it was.
Oh, well, if you saw, then you're
Maybe
better off
not.
than me. It just said anticipated
Oh,
expense.
yeah,
and then
machinery.
Machinery. I just wondered what the machinery was. Are we buying machine guns? Are we buying some pumps?
Is there anybody, Marcy, do you know?
Does
or-
anybody know? $9,000 worth of machinery. Do we know what it is?
Rashawn's not here, she would know. Oh, you are here. Sorry, Rashawn, I didn't see you back there.
Were you hiding, Rashawn?
Can't say I blame you.
Can I say something before? we
Just let me turn your mic on really quick, Julie, and then. Okay, Julie, go ahead.
Before Rashawn speaks, if everyone, take a look at the resolution. These are funds that we receive from Citgo. So
Yeah.
that's what this is about. This is not about, if you're concerned
Right.
about the money, we received this money from Citgo. So
right.
I don't have any issue with the allocation of this money.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
This is additional funds that were received that we have to appropriate in order for them to be spent, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And I don't have the specific as to what the machinery is, but these are funds that they received from Citgo that they are able to purchase that.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
was curious what they were buying with it. I mean,
okay.
but it's their money basically, because it was a grant.
Right.
If you want to
We just need to appropriate it in order for them to spend it.
And I'm
Yes.
fine
So-
with it, but can we find out what it is and
Sure.
maybe let us know? I'm just curious.
Will do. I can send that to Chuck and he can disseminate that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, David, did you have anything or you're? I'm sorry, I'm recognizing you now. Let me turn your microphone on. Okay,
We, as Jackie is saying, what are we buying? I
well,
mean, and I understand the grants from Citgo to the sheriff's department, but what are we buying with it? We're the stewards of the money no matter what.
this is
Help me
typical.
know on this because I don't know what we're buying.
Most of the grants are typically designated, designated
Machinery,
grant
what
money
machinery?
for a particular.
What are you buying?
Okay, well,
Nobody knows.
that's,
You're gonna
we'll
put
do a roll call. Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's do a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Butler, Ortiz, Oxley, Trainier,
I'm a yes, I guess, but I really want to know what it's for.
Winfrey, Newquist,
Yes.
motion carries.
I'd like to add, I think maybe what we need to do in the future when we get requests like this, that we just ask the departments to provide a short description, of what it's for. Even though since it's a grant, I'm assuming it's probably a very narrow window of what they can spend it on. So, okay, thank you. Next is we have a presentation about River Valley Detention Center. Please.
This won't be our first one.
If you guys could hit your buttons so I can turn your mics on. Even though we all know I'm button challenged, or do you want to hit yours? Or you got 9 on? Okay. There it is. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having us and allowing us to speak. I'm Shannon McCormick, Superintendent of River Valley. I believe I have spoken in front of you all previously. I will let my counterpart introduce himself.
Chris Watkins, the Director of Court Services, and the detention center is also under my purview,
So the PowerPoint that is presented in front of you is the same as previously, but we've come back with a little bit more information for you guys regarding the cost analysis or the costs that you guys would have to approve for us. So as previously stated, there were 3 options for River Valley Justice Center as a whole. That would be to house the youth at the detention center elsewhere, to house the youth at the Will County Adult Detention Center, and then to continue housing the youth at the River Valley Detention Center. So to house the youth elsewhere, 16 youth would cost around $1.3 million. And then the bed space alone, that's what it would be. So that would not include any additional medical, transportation, anything like that. And then the net cost for last year, 24 fiscal year was 2.6 million for the county. And unfortunately, at the moment, there is no detention center that is accepting outside youth that they already don't have an agreement with. So we get calls constantly from surrounding agency or surrounding counties, Rock Island, you name it, Franklin County, we're getting calls, requests for us to house their youth with us. So unfortunately, if we chose to go elsewhere, it would be very difficult to get them a place in a different detention center. And then if we chose that route, we would also lose the out-of-county revenue that we do currently get right now. So currently we house, obviously, Will County youth. We also house Kankakee residents, youth, not residents, that's what we call them, sorry, as well as DeKalb youth. And then I am currently working with Grundy to inquire those youth as well. So the next slide you'll see are the current counties that have detention centers within them. So you'll see that we have one and there's a few surrounding us, and then there's some in the middle of the state, and then there are none in the lower part of the states. And that is the chunk that we would potentially target if we were to continue, but I will discuss that in a little bit. I jumped ahead of myself. The second option would be to house the youth at the adult detention center. And that would require us to receive a waiver from one of our oversight agencies, which is the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice. And we'd have to get that waiver prior to even considering moving forward with looking into any renovations at the adult detention center. So we spoke with facilities department, and to just get a quick estimate, any costs for capital improvement at the adult detention center would cost $10 million. And that would include housing the youth sight and sound separate, which would include a separate entrance, separate visitation area, an indoor recreation area, schooling area, medical, and any other necessities to keep the youth sight and sound separate. And then additionally, we would also have to make renovations to the new courthouse. Unfortunately, that would also require the youth to be sight and sound separate from any of the adult offenders that were going to court as well. So that would require a separate holding, separate elevators, and a separate court entrance for the youth as well.
Would you prefer that we wait on the questions, or would you rather we ask them?
It's your preference. I can answer whatever you
I
want.
think while we're on it, yeah, you just.
Hold on, Julie, your mic's
Oh,
not on.
sorry. Okay.
Go ahead.
You just mentioned that if we, now we're talking about the potential of housing them at the WCADF, the courthouse, wouldn't you
Correct.
have to do that irregardless? I mean, now they're combined and it's okay.
No, so currently at River Valley Justice Center, it is a juvenile courthouse. So the Justice Center has everything juvenile within it. So we have
Okay.
juvenile court there.
I thought we were talking about the main courthouse.
If we moved them to the adult detention center, we would have to make adjustments, capital improvements to the new courthouse there because the River Valley Justice Center would be gone. So we would completely close down the River Valley Justice Center.
Okay.
Sorry, was I not clear enough? I apologize.
Okay. No, there's a lot of moving.
Yeah, I'm
pieces.
sorry.
Okay.
So we should be clear, we were presented with the Will County Adult Detention Facility as an option.
Yes.
Based on a member who's made the suggestion of closing down the entire juvenile detention center or the entire River
Okay.
Valley Justice Center.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So
No, that's fine. Now I know where you're coming from.
Yes.
If you were to shut down then the RVDC,
Mm-hmm.
there's some potential revenue to doing that if we were to sell that property and there would be some savings if you could kind of bring that into the conversation as well. Thank you.
I think they will.
We could
Go
look
ahead.
into that, absolutely. In addition to the capital improvements on the adult detention center as well as the courthouse, we would be displacing not only the youth, but also multiple departments within the River Valley Justice Center, which would include the juvenile courts, as well as the judges that are out there, the court reporters, the bailiffs, the juvenile circuit clerk that's out there. CASA currently has an office out there as well, along with the juvenile state's attorney, the juvenile public defender, as well as juvenile probation. So those departments are currently within the River Valley Justice Center, and if we close the entire building, we would have to find space for those departments as well. And then the potential savings, if we did close the River Valley Justice Center, and this savings would strictly be just for the detention center portion, would be between $750,000 per year, and that would be between the food and medical services that we currently provide at the Justice Center for the youth. Again, that would be a loss of the out-of-county revenue, which was between $400,000 and $500,000 per year that we currently bring into the county. Now, that's not including if we sold the land or anything like that, but we could try to find out that information for you if you would like.
Thank you.
And then if we did continue, the third option, if we did continue at River Valley Justice Center, we would have to include some upgrades. One specific one would be for the detention center. We currently are in partial compliance with one of our oversight agencies, the Department of Juvenile Justice, for contact visitation. Their standard states that all visits shall be contact unless specific concerns preclude that. So we currently have contact visits during the weekdays, but they are saying that all of our visits need to be contact. So we would have to make some planned adjustments to our to our visitation area currently. And since speaking to some of you last month, I was able to get a hold of 3 of my fellow superintendents to get pictures of their current contact visitation areas. And they are all in full compliance with this standard so that we can go the most cost-effective route with that. And we've also had the original architect that came out to construct the building. He was on site to take a look at it, write up some plans. So we've had him out and we are waiting on a quote from him so that we can get the most cost effective and be in full compliance with our oversight agency. So we can bring that number back to you guys for the visitation area.
Excuse me 1 minute. Mr. Butler, did you have a question?
Yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then excuse me. And then addition to the contact visitation, we would also request a body scanner because we've learned that with the implementation of contact visits, a lot of contraband has been entering into the other detention centers. And that would be one of our top priorities, is to ensure that that would not happen within. Obviously, we can't stop everything, but safety and security of our staff and the residents within the building would be our number one concern. And a body scanner would be one of the things that would help us negate that in the future. So that would be an additional cost. And we've looked into that, and that's anywhere between $180 and $2,000. One of the body scanners would be 200. What? I'm sorry, 200. Sorry, I don't know what I said. I apologize. And then, so those would be the physical upgrades to the site. And then additionally, we would look into upgrading our staffing so that we could bring in additional out-of-county youth to our facility so that we could upgrade or increase our out-of-county revenue. So we currently have 28 staff, and then Chris has requested through another one of our oversight agencies additional staffing so that we can increase the out-of-county revenue. So like I said, we are currently working with Grundy to bring in their youth, and then we would also target some of those southern counties that don't have a facility near them so that we can bring those youth in with us as well. I've been working with Jason Donish to get Wi-Fi throughout the building, so that will help us. Then we can offer virtual Zoom hearings for those southern counties so they would not have to transport their youth to and from, which would be a real burden on them. So we are working with Jason on that, and that will be coming hopefully in the very near future. And that would be very beneficial. And then the next slide would be facilities proposal for physical upgrades for the entire building as a whole. So this would be for the whole Justice Center, not just the detention portion. So they are requesting 1.3 million, and then they have an additional 30% for unexpected costs in there. So bringing it to nearly 1.7 million. And that would include the building automation system. The body scanner is thrown in there for us, some kitchen equipment, upgrades to the pod, so painting, some shower epoxy, upgrades to the airlock system for the secure portion of the facilities for the doors, air handlers, commercial dryers and washers, the gutter system repair, chillers, boilers, and then you can see, I don't want to read it to you guys all, you can see there's other additional repairs that would be needed. And facilities has stated that they are working on getting quotes, more specific quotes than they have here for you guys for these as well. Yes, ma'am.
I think that's kind of.
Dan had his light on first. Go, let me turn your, what are you, number 4? I always forget. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
So I'm assuming that we don't make any money from this?
From the detention center?
Yeah,
We do. We get out of county revenue.
okay, that's what I
We
was
don't-
curious
It
about.
goes back into the county general fund.
Right, so when you say that we're losing revenue, that's actually money, tax money that goes back into the general fund, or?
So we charge per diem for a youth in the bed. So Kankakee gets charged $25 a day for a youth in our facility. So every month the billing comes in, and that gets brought back into the county general fund.
So is there a minimum amount of detention, people who are detained that it takes to cover our overhead?
That would depend on the staffing. So if we increased our staffing, we could bring in more out of county youth.
So it
that's why-
doesn't have anything to do with the space requirements, where we have ample space at the place we're at
Yes,
to increase even people that we bring in?
yes.
And out of the 3 options, which one does your staff and over there prefer?
Staying where we are.
All right, thank you.
Jackie, let me turn on your mic.
You might not have the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask, shower epoxy?
Yes, so it's painting it's paint. It's painting the showers, since it's used so often, the paint peels off the showers, and they need special paint for the showers.
Okay.
They've actually visited the the ADF and looked at their showers, see if that, we could use their,
Process of
yes,
what they
their
do.
similar
Okay.
product.
Because, I mean, I just figure you throw tile on there and cover up the wall.
So the interesting thing about that is, those products have they can be damaged relatively easy. So the current structure is the shower bay is a cinder block. It typically has an enamel or more of a, like maybe an epoxy
Some kind of funky paint.
on
Got you.
it. And over time they wear out. So to place a tile or any kind of covering on it
Okay.
would lend itself to failure
Even
over
more
time. And then there is,
Yeah.
it is a detention center, and so there is a potential of damage happening, so.
No, I'd never seen that phrase before, shower epoxy, and I was like, oh, wow, and it's expensive too. But yeah, far cheaper than closing it down and moving you to the ADF. And I don't think you said anything here, but I know last month at the county meeting when you presented, you talked about how it might be difficult to get that approval from the state, and then other counties may not be willing to send their residents our way.
Yes.
So, thank
Okay,
you.
we're gonna go Micah, Julie, and then Judy. So Micah, go ahead.
I'm not on the committee, but is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at your list of costs to stay at your location. You were talking about Wi-Fi wiring and it's not in there. So you're saying it's going to be done before all of this happens, and is there a cost associated with that?
That I'm not sure if you would have to ask Jason, but I've worked with him. In April, he came out with a company and we did a wireless survey for the entire building. So that is, the process has started. I don't know the costs associated with that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And then the other one is, it also doesn't include any new potential staff. Like, so is staff covered through this
So,
state, or how does that work?
so, the sworn staff are reimbursed through the state, currently at 100%. So their salaries are. We don't, so I put the request in and, was denied this budget cycle for the state, which ends June 30th. They're revisiting it and they're placing those requests into the budget. So we will find out whether or not we were approved. It would entail the county covering the benefits portion of it, of the.
And does any of the costs that come from those counties that are bringing their kids, residents in here, does that help cover any of that?
So.
Or does it
With
solely
regard
fall
to
on
out
the
of county revenue, we don't see it. That is sent right to it goes into county general. We predict with Rashawn on how much that revenue is, what it's likely to be. We would anticipate if these things happen, that we can't guarantee, but we would anticipate a significant increase in the out of county revenue on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, I don't expect to have a surplus of funds coming
No,
from
no,
the
no.
detention center,
But-
but to
but
cover the cost of additional
We
officers.
would offset it. Yeah,
For,
absolutely. So
counties that aren't ours, I would hope that they're covering the costs of those benefits.
roughly, it's about $70,000 to add to increase the average daily population by one person would generate about $70,000 back to the county general fund. Does that make
Thank you.
sense?
That was all.
Okay, Julie, go ahead.
Thank you. So Shannon, you mentioned Kankakee pays $225 for a
ma'am.
daily rate. Do all the counties pay the same rate?
It depends on what they work into their agreement. So right now Kankakee is at 225 and DeKalb is at 175.
So why wouldn't we make it all equal? Why would we allow DeKalb to only pay us $175?
So we have an agreement with DeKalb. We do not have an agreement with Kankakee. And so that's,
Okay.
as we begin to negotiate these things, we would be looking at the potential of agreements with other counties that would guarantee we would guarantee bed space, and they would be paying for that, some semblance of that bed space, whether they were utilizing it or not.
Well, based on the fact that there's very few counties that will intake, I think we have some leverage there and flexibility, and I'd like us to go back to these contracts and see if we at least make them all equal, or possibly see, do we need to increase that fee? It's all part of the evaluation moving forward. Then you mentioned, well, I'm looking at this list of repairs. Looks like many of these things could be done in-house. Would Bill Fern, his department, be handling some of these HVAC and boilers and chillers? Will that work be done by county staff?
I don't believe so, but I can check with Bill Fern.
Because I think if we have the potential to do this work here, then it may change the cost at the end of the day for us. The parking lot, you've got 190,000. Did that go out to bid? Did we get
I
3
believe it did,
bids?
yes.
Oh, okay. And
I
then,
believe it is already done and it's scheduled to happen in May, I believe.
oh, it's happening in May?
Yes.
Okay. Then the other thing is, you mentioned the $10 million that goes to the county general fund. So maybe this is a question for Rashawn. So the money we get from the out of county residents or participants, what fund is that? Is that Rashawn, is there a reason why that money can't go back to your budget so you can apply it to your program at Riverview?
To answer that question, and it's a small dollar amount, I can't remember the dollar amount that you mentioned, but it's not $10 million. So whatever revenue that they're generating from the different counties that pay per day, that goes into our general fund. The juvenile detention center is a part of the general fund pool. So a part of those expenses are covered from any revenue generated. It doesn't cover all of their expenditures, but they're a part of the same pool.
Okay, so, but can it go to their line item in the general fund? Or does it just go back into the big pool and then they have to, ask for their budget every year and hope they get some of that money back?
They do. They request their expenditures every year, and the county, based on what the revenue that they're bringing in, it does cover some of their expenditures, but the county is supplementing a lot of their expenditures as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Judy, and then you, Jim, after Judy.
Thank you. I just have a question. You mentioned that you would go to other counties to get youth to come to our facility. Where are those youth going now, and how do we know we could do that?
So I do know that some counties have gone out of state because there are very slim pickings. And I do know that Rock Island has reached out and they would like to do an agreement. Grundy is wanting to do an agreement. I'm working on an agreement right now, a document with them right now. So I already know that I can get one for sure. And then we could target some other counties as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Jim, hold on, let me turn your mic on. Okay, go ahead.
Great. So thank you for coming back with more information. It's always helpful on how to make a good decision. So obviously right now it kind of looks like it's best to keep the adult or the juvenile detention center in place without merging them in with the adult detention center. So I think, Dan, part of your question is you were looking for, do we have a net positive revenue profit off of each child, youth that we bring in on a daily or bed basis? Can you answer that question? Because realistically, what it comes down to is we have to have a business case that's going to help us understand, does it make sense for us to do this? What is our potential for at least breaking even? Because we don't want to lay this burden on the taxpayers. Yes, it is a responsibility that we have to do, But for us to make a good decision is we have to know where is our break point. I mean, do we have to have 37 kids? And if we have, or 37 youths or whatever you want to call them. And if we have that, that's great. If we're below that, we're losing money, which is costing the county money because we have a number of places within the county that we're constantly losing money on. And I know there's things that we can't be considered a profit entity, but what we should do is we should understand what our cost per bed is because I heard 175 and 250. That's a big range. That's $75 a night. Now, if you've got 10 kids or 10, 12 kids, you're up to $1,000 a night. Now you're either making money or you're losing money. And if we're losing money, that's not a good thing. So I think what we got to do is we got to come back, look at the case study, because I do understand that the state does pay for the officers, but we got to pay for the benefits. So this isn't an easy solution or an easy computation, but it's something we should be able to wrap our arms around and come up with a break even. Also too, as you did mention that you have one, I know we talked about the other day, is a letter of intent or intergovernment agreement or something like that. You know, we need to kind of like lock some of those down too, is if we move forward with this, this is what their averages are, and they're saying that they're going to bring us 10 kids or whatever it is. And now what we can do is we can add that into the equation so we can make a good decision.
Of course.
So, thank you.
Jim, are you asking, I just want to clarify, are you
Well-
asking if $225 a day covers our costs for that child?
So yeah, technically, I mean, realistically, that's what it all boils down to is what is our cost per bed per night of our fixed costs? Not that's compensated because we can take the stuff off that the state pays for. But I mean, I'm sure we've got heat, electric, we've got all these costs that are going to boil down into this. And is our cost per bed really 250 or is it, 318? Because if it's 318 and to me, I hear supply and demand. There's a supply out there, there's a demand out there, there's insufficient supply. So that in turn should be able for us to increase our price. And not let the Will County taxpayers bear the burden of whether it's Grundy or DuPage or Edwardsville or state of Indiana for that matter. That's really what we've got to look at.
Sure.
So that's what I guess that's my question.
Okay.
In long form.
And I think I may be able to answer that. So if the question is, will we turn a profit? The answer is no. There's always going to be a net cost to the county. There's always going to be a net cost to the county for the operation of the juvenile detention center. Or if we move it to an adult detention center, or if we house our kids elsewhere. I would not see a way around not costing the taxpayer. What our proposal would do is, since we have the building and we're already heating it and we're already cooling it and we already have a medical contract and we already have staff and we already, what we want to do is reduce that cost to the taxpayer, and adding each kid that we add reduces that cost. Each out of county child reduces that cost because our medical contract does not go up if we add 5 kids or 10 kids. Our food costs are minimal because right now the food costs, even though our contract with Aramark isn't super expensive, it's very expensive per kid per day. And adding kids reduces that cost, so it costs less over time. We become more efficient when we have a greater number of kids in it. And the building in and of itself had to answer a question, to kind of move forward with a question that was about size. We have 102 beds. We're utilizing 1 pod currently, right? So
You're not even at one fifth of the capacity or the utilization.
we're utilizing a pod. Well, we're using 51. We're using 1 pod, which has 51 beds. There are 2 pods, each with 51 beds. So does that answer the question a little bit better?
So it partially answers the question because what you're trying to achieve is economies of scale, which I totally get.
Yes.
The next thing is though, is that I don't want to see us take in kids from other counties and have it incrementally increase our costs. And we have exposure there that our taxpayers have to bear the burden of. So you need to drill down into all your expenses. Yes, I agree. You've got to heat the building. Now, if you're only using 1 pod out of 5, two, then if you're looking at doing the boilers, I'd figure out a way, if I'm never going to get to 50% of shutting that other half of the building down and doing minimal maintenance so that this way it doesn't deteriorate. Because I've also heard too, people saying out there is that, who knows where we're going to be 5 years from now if we're even going to have the population to fill this facility. So, I mean, Julie said, there's a lot of moving parts in one of your conversations, but what we want to do is make sure that incrementally our taxpayers aren't bearing the burden of bringing in additional youth.
So, and the other issue is, one of the hard separations that we have is the mechanicals for the building are for the entire building. They're not split off. Replacing a boiler doesn't replace a boiler for the detention center. Replacing the boilers for the entire River Valley Justice Center, which is all of those agencies that we talked about earlier. So parsing those costs out are very difficult.
So when you're replacing a boiler, it would seem as though maybe what you could do is put in 2 smaller boilers or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not
I
an
wish I could
HVAC
answer
guy.
for that,
I'm not an HVAC guy, but these are all the things that we need to look at, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be burdening our taxpayers by making a decision that's going to cost us $100 a night per bed. I mean, right now at the Sunny Hill, Sunny Hill is a great place. It does a great service in that. But most people don't realize it costs us $57 a day per bed that's a burden on the taxpayers. So I don't want us to duplicate something here at the Delta Detention Center and have it cost some incrementally increase to the residents now.
And I agree. And ultimately, that's what we are trying to reduce the cost to the taxpayer. As a taxpayer, I want costs reduced to the taxpayer. So, but I think I need to stress this. There is no way of getting around being a cost to the county.
Oh, I agree that you're going to have costs because you're going to have heat, electric and all that. Because I just want to make sure.
No matter what our housing, no matter what our housing situation is, it's going to cost us to put kids someplace. When the kids are arrested and they're housed someplace, there's a cost. And that cost isn't limited to a per diem. So there's also a cost to have somebody who's doing the assessment piece on call. There's a cost to do the transports. And that's, there's a more extensive cost analysis that we did indicating what it would cost us to house 15 or 20 kids. It's someplace else. And that's where we do the comparison of what our operating costs are versus what those are.
Yeah, I hear that we have to spend $1 million something of that to bring it up to, so we can do what we want to do. What I heard though is a big discrepancy of 175 to 250, $75 delta per night per child. Start doing the math on that, and it comes out to be tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, which starts to chew away at that 1.something million.
And I am not arguing that. I will tell you that there's some savviness to the negotiation with another county because of their location to another center. And so we wanted to make it palatable for them to bring the kids to us.
So the adult facility, do they take people from other counties?
I couldn't answer that. I don't believe so.
I'd be curious to find out, and if so, what do they charge these other counties? But again, I don't think we should take on the role of being the negotiator. We have resources and a service that they need. We shouldn't be bargaining. I think it's apparent we need to, it would be appropriate to find out what is that true cost per day for each individual, and let's go from there. Let's take that cost and you have to, if the heating and the ductwork isn't zoned and you have to heat the whole facility. I know that they did amazing things at Sunny Hill. They've saved us some money, put in some new modernized equipment. So that in effect could lower some of our costs on that end. And I was a little shocked when I saw this list, because if we have a maintenance plan, a 5 or 10-year maintenance plan, I don't think this list would have been as extensive as it is. So moving forward, I'm so glad you've come before us, and I think we need to work within the county. Let's get our people, Dave or Bill, and let's get them out there by you. Take a look at all of these things on this grid.
This list is from Bill.
Excellent. Then I would assume he can probably do most of this, maybe even bring some of these costs down. And then the other key piece is, let's find out what that exact cost is. and then go forward for these out-of-county individuals.
Okay, I have a comment and then Dan, Jackie, and
Just
then
regular.
Dave. Thank you, or Jim, whichever one of you guys.
I have one more question.
No, Jim, we got a bunch of other people that want to talk, so I'll call on you eventually. So my question is, what you're saying is that if we stopped taking outside kids, we would immediately lose over $400,000 in a year in revenue.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make that point. Thank you. Okay, Dan.
So I hear the question kind of being broached many times, but I just want to be clear on this. If you have an inmate or whatever you want to call them for Will County, and they are being detained here, do you know how much it costs per day for them to be detained there?
Off of the top of my head, no, I do not.
So it's a difficult question because it is entirely dependent on the population that day. So if you have.
Let's just say right now, the minimum population that you
Maybe
have now.
one? Right, well,
No, right now.
that
The
would be-
population you have right now, how much does it cost?
20? But that's not all of Will County.
Right, so we would, I mean, we would have to go through, it's not a static number, right? Because I can't say that it costs $410 per day to house a kid, because if I have one kid, or if I have two kids, if I have 15, I don't know what those costs are.
Well,
We could figure
I
that
would be
out.
I would be very comfortable if you were able to say, hey, it costs us $150 a day. We charge Kankakee $175. We charge, or LaSalle $175, Kankakee $225, because we have to go out of our, regular practice because it's just no agreements. So it causes us extra work. I'd be comfortable with that. I don't have any problem with charging more money because it's more wear and tear, that sort of thing. But I would like to think, if we're going to save this building and we're going to take all these people from other areas and increase the staff, that there's going to be ample revenue to keep everything updated, the maintenance to be updated, and to contribute back into the general fund. That's an important number. I mean, I personally like the idea of you staying where you are. I think it's a good program. You got to have it. But certainly before the next time you come back before the committee, we should know those kind of numbers, and so we could see what the cost and what the benefit is. That's all. I mean, I know it has to exist, but because how can you charge somebody $175 a day if you don't know if that covers it? Like, that's what, I guess that's what makes me, confused.
And it wasn't just pulled out of the air. We surveyed what the per diem costs were around the state, and we tried to stay
Yeah.
competitive with that so that we wouldn't price ourselves out of somebody going someplace else. That's where we were. I just don't want you to think we were ignorant.
No,
to
I
the
consult,
costs.
the superintendents of all the other detention centers, we consult and we've discussed what all the per diems are, who has what per diem. So we all stay relatively competitive outside of Cook County because Cook County is an island on its own.
That's illegal in the private sector.
Yeah, so I'd like to balance, the need to even have outside people come in to, what do we have to do to take care of our people and take care of the taxpayers of Will County? So, yeah, if you could come up with some more of those numbers. Like I said, I'm very supportive of your idea staying where you're at and fixing that place up. But I just want to know a little bit more about the finances of it.
Jackie?
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody, we're a policymaking body. We're not a management body. So I want to say that to start off. Secondly, I think what they're trying to get at is, what is the cost to have that building there with no people in it? What is the cost per year, per day, whatever you want to do it as, with no residents in the building? Because there's a basic cost that we have. And honestly, what I see is a system of benign neglect, It's what I saw with the sheriff's facility. It's what I saw with the courthouse. And now we're seeing it with this facility. And I do know the county executive has been wanting to address this for some time. This is not like, it's, again, I know she's wanted to address it. Now it's finally on our radar and on our agenda. Just based on what you said, it's a no-brainer to me. We need to stay where we are. We need to buck up and spend the 1.7 because that's just the benign neglect of not managing the building properly over the last 10, 15 years.
Well, and upgrading the visitor center.
And yeah, that part, that is a law change and we have to comply with that, but we're very late to the party with that. So again, we're a policymaking body. If we want to say we don't have the money and we want to continue to neglect the building, well, then just say that. But otherwise, I think it's kind of clear we need to keep them in this building. And honestly, you're colluding with all these other managers. In the private sector, that is illegal. It's called price fixing. I'm not sure we should be doing that, but I also understand the need to try to attract additional clients so that we do make this thing a little more fiscally responsible. And I would say that, yeah, you could charge a little bit more to Grundy County because they're right next door and it's less of an inconvenience for their parents and for anybody else. Whereas, Rock Island, and it's a 2-hour drive, 2.5 hours, depends on how heavy your foot is on the gas pedal. So they might not be as excited to come here. They may want to prefer to put their kids in Knox County or Peoria County or LaSalle County because those are closer. So I get you're trying to make a deal. But again, this is a policy decision. I'm ready to vote on it if you're
I don't
requiring a
even
vote.
think we're voting today.
There's no way.
Well, if not, then I think we need to move
I
along to the
think
next
Dave
topic or
has-
we'll be here beating this dead horse for a week.
I think Dave has a question and then hopefully we can.
There's several items we're missing here today. We, as this finance committee, are the stewards of the money for the taxpayers of Will County. This is about the third presentation we've had today with unknown costs. We shouldn't be voting on stuff with unknown costs.
We're not voting on this.
I know, but we have. Or make a recommendation. Secondly, we have a fixed cost to operate that building. And as Jackie said, but now we've got a
What is
building in disrepair. Why? We have a full-time maintenance staff. Somebody needs to be on their toes, making sure that these things are maintained. Why? So we've let it go into disrepair and then boy, it costs us more instead of continual repair. So what is the cost? Here's the question that's been asked. What is the total cost to operate the facility right now as presented per student? And then we take that money and we double it or whatever to these other ones, because why should the taxpayers of this county fund DeKalb County, Kankakee County, or wherever? I'm tired of it. The taxes are nuts. They keep going up and here we're sitting here deficit spending. We should not be, we're here, the people that bring their wants to us, we should be looking at them like we're the board of directors of a bank giving them a loan. How are we going to make, and I know there's costs to run an account. Not everything is profitable, but we should make sure we're doing the best we can. We're voting on stuff we don't know the cost of. They come in to say, well, I don't know. Oh, we vote to buy property. Do we need the space? There's a septic system on the north side that's not in use. So that space could be another building in Monique rather than spend $17 million.
Let's stick to the juvenile
It's money.
facility.
It's money is what I'm sticking to. It's not the product. Every building has a fixed cost to operate. I get that. Everything's not profitable. I understand profit and loss statements. This is some of this way that you want to spend money with. They come in with not knowing the cost of what they want.
Mhm.
And there should be a procedure in somewhere that lists everything they got to come to this committee to get money for.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate the update. Wait,
Thank you.
yeah, I think it was just a presentation and discussion. Well, that's a really good question. Question, we're not voting on this or deciding a direction. It was just a presentation. Okay. So do we know what the next steps are then in making this decision?
my understanding is there's questions. They're gonna, yes, they have to go.
And we'll have it,
Committee can,
we'll come back to another
consider
finance meeting.
Whenever the next meeting.
Yeah, would we like them back? I think next month. Do you think you could get answers to this stuff for the next month's meeting? Okay, great. And then I think after the next month's meeting, maybe do we need to make a recommendation to, move to executive or move forward with one option or another? I'm really not sure what we're being asked of at this point. Yeah, yep. Okay.
Can I?
Oh,
I'd
Steph,
like,
Julie,
I'd
go
like to,
ahead.
Shannon and Chris, what is your timeline for this? You were here today, and what are your concerns and what is the timeline you're on?
So, that's a great question. And the thing is, for us, this started off with, how can we become compliant with our visitation area? Which is, even though it's a big cost, it's not nearly as big as the rest of the costs on the building.
Mhm.
So we're now coupled together with the facilities request on keeping the entire building functional
Mhm.
and updating those things. So it's very difficult for me to say. I do know that there are certain things within that request with regard that facilities would have to answer and say, yeah, these need to be done ASAP. We are at the point of failure at this piece or this piece or this piece, which I can't answer for. And I would like to take responsibility for the maintenance aspect. I can't. And I'm not certain why we are in the position we are, but I do know that there are pieces that are at the point of failure at this point. So.
Okay, so that to me indicates that this is a high priority item. And I think not only because of the accommodation, the services that go with this, we have to provide to the people who are entered into the program. We're responsible to them. We're also responsible to our staff, the members of Will County that put themselves in that environment. So I would say that this seems to me like it is a high priority project that we should try to maybe have you come back next month.
Which we've already asked for.
With a plan to possibly even have it go to executive and the full county board next month. So that's my proposal to you, because anytime, whether we stay or move, it's going to cost us less money to do it now than to kick it down the road for a year. So thank you for coming forward. And I think, as a board, we'll focus on that committee meeting coming up. And if anyone has questions or comments, they can reach out to you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Dan, let me turn your mic on. Yeah, I'm finding it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Go
if
ahead.
you could leave your contact information and, I know we had a lot of questions. Maybe we could ask you and the next time you come, you wrap it all up.
Dan, I would suggest if you have questions going through Chuck, and then he can funnel our questions, which is our process on most committees. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. So then I think for next month, like I said, they'll come back, they'll give us some information. And at that point, we should be prepared to make a recommendation and then whether it goes to executive next or the full board, I'm not sure, but we can figure that out. So, okay, are we ready to move on? Last item, number 5, increasing compensation for election judges, beginning with the 2026 primary elections. Rashawn, take it away.
I'm not here for that.
okay.
However, I came back up to answer the question to item number 3 as to what the
awesome.
sheriff was purchasing with the funds from Sicko. They're purchasing a drone.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, going back to number 5, can I get a motion? A second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, Go ahead, you guys.
I have some information.
Wait, did I get a second first before we go? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, guys.
All right, thank you, Chair Newquist and committee members for having us here today. We are here to ask for an increase for our election judges. I'm Annette Parker, Will County Clerk, and this is Heather Sanders, our election judge coordinator. So I'll give you a brief history. April of 2023, the clerk's office came before county board asking for an increase from $150 to $200. It was a straight up, just straight increase to help with recruitment and retention and get more judges. And the request was granted. In December of 2024, the clerk's office became aware that the state would reimburse the election judge pay an additional $20 if we were to increase it. So at this point, the state reimburses $45. If we increase by $20, they will reimburse us additional $20. So it'll go from reimbursement of $45 to $65. And it will start in the primary of 2024. So we are coming before you so you can change or create or make a resolution, adopt a resolution to change the pay from 200 to 220. And that is that they will reimburse up to 1,550 judges. So I brought Heather with, I'm sure you guys are going to have questions about how many judges we typically have. She can talk about the last election. At this point.
Can you hit your button so I can turn your mic on? Thanks.
It's the one with the face. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll let Heather take away, or if you guys have questions, which I'm sure you do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So this, if I use the last election as a comparable, we did pay the base pay for the election judges is $200 per judge. We paid 1,163 judges, a rate of $200 base pay. We were reimbursed by the state $45 per election judge. So our reimbursement check was, let's see, $52,335. If we would have paid them, if we were at that time able to pay them the $220, we would have been increased the reimbursement rate $20 per election judge. It basically equates to
Yeah, it's a wash.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the one thing I do want to point out is that we had 1,163 judges. They will pay up to 1,550. So it will depend on the election cycle as to how many judges we will have per precinct at different elections. And Heather has some of that info.
Okay.
Heather, how many judges did we have in the November election?
Then that was the presidential. We 1,915.
Okay.
Mhm.
So certain years, that $20 will come out of our pocket, but for the most part, it's going to be a wash, it sounds like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so for that election, if we had the increase in place at that time, taking into consideration the reimbursement rate, we would have been able to pay the judges or received an additional reimbursement from the state of $31,000, where our cost would have been an additional $6,950
Okay.
for that election.
Okay.
That situation can occur every 2 years, once every 2 years.
Yep. Okay. Dave, let me turn your mic on, and then Jackie. Wait, what number are you? 5. Okay.
It appears to be a wash, $20 up and they reimburse us 20, so there's no question there to me.
Jackie, let me turn your mic on. Okay.
I would just love to get a 10% pay raise every year. I think that would be awesome. But that being said, I do understand a large portion of it would be reimbursed. However, if the state gets into financial trouble, are they likely to cut that reimbursement? Is this something, I mean, they could change this at any time, correct? This is probably a state statute. They create the statutes. They could decide not to do this anymore. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware you're voting for a 10% increase that maybe we'll get the money back. And then on the presidential years, there's 800 people that we wouldn't get the money back for.
Well, if they change the statute, we can always change the pay.
Yeah,
If we need to.
I mean, I think we might have to consider that. And you did give a start date of 2024, which seemed odd to me, so I think you
Sorry.
misspoke.
I did, 26.
Okay, that's what I kind of figured you meant, but you know, I just wanted to check. And yeah, I mean,
See Dan, yeah.
if money were the real factor which gets people to volunteer to do this, then I would say this is a really good incentive, but I'm not sure that that's what gets people to do this. I think a lot has to do with, do they have something else more fun to do? Do they have any interest in government or politics? I mean, are they physically able? Are they afraid of the iPads? I mean, there's a myriad of different things that fall into this. So I just, again, I understand most of it will probably be reimbursed, but I just want to caution folks. And how, we don't know if they change the law next month.
Well, we'll know if they
Yeah.
do well before the
Yeah.
next 2026 election.
Yeah, that's
so.
true.
Couple more things. Yes,
Yeah.
it could happen. We could then reduce our pay, go back to it. There is a bill that they're discussing right now. It hasn't gone anywhere, but they are looking at a judge reduction bill. So
Oh, that would-
maybe instead of having 7, we
Yeah.
would only have to have 5,
Yeah.
which would help the numbers.
That would be good too, because so many people are voting by mail now, or early voting.
Mhm.
And it just, I feel badly for the judges in my precinct. They sit there all day with almost nothing to do, especially in the consolidated.
Yep.
Thank you.
Right, we'll go Dan and then Micah.
So when the last clerk came before us, this is something that I wholeheartedly agreed with and was more than willing to do. And this seems like a very small bump, and I think it will make a difference. I think that responsible people who have to take time from their jobs would be more apt if they were compensated to do it because, you know, everything's tight. So I'm 100% in agreement with this.
Thank you. Micah?
So the state will reimburse for $65, basically.
Correct.
With the new thing.
So
So
we have to increase in order.
if
to
we
get that
didn't
back.
raise it, then it would still, I mean,
It would remain 200 and they would only reverse 45. If we bump it to 220.
so they'll
then-
only give you the extra 20 if you raise it.
Yes, that was my question.
The
But
the
yeah.
raise would have to occur after June 7th of 2023 in order to get that difference of.
So
the
we would
additional
have to give a raise in order for the state to pay more.
Correct.
Okay,
I-
that's where I was like, well, if they're
Yeah.
increasing, and why are we increasing?
Right.
But I do also agree with everyone that, you know, it helps get people in and they are taking away from their time at home with their grandkids, working, whatever. I don't have a problem with that, but I just was curious. Thank you.
Yeah, some of the comparables too with some of the larger counties surrounding us. Kane County pays 250, Kendall County pays 225, DuPage is 250, Lake County is 225, so we're still
We'll be
under.
Close.
Yeah. I will say some of the election judge resignations that I get, some of the feedback I get is that it's just not worth their time. The monetary amount is not worth their time. Yeah, it's a 15-hour day, actually. It's a long day for them. And the $200 also is part of their training pay too. So if you add that time into the equation,
Yep.
it's a big commitment.
Chuck, you have a
No,
comment?
that's what I was just gonna ask, if you could kind of give an indication about how long of a day that is for the election judges. It's not like just a normal day of work. It's you start at 5 o'clock in the morning and you may end at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, depending upon when you come back. It's a long day.
Julie, did you have a comment?
Well, the training, isn't that session about 3 hours at least?
Yeah, it's about 2
And
hours.
So that's in addition to election day. So plus they've got, they're coming here to Joliet for their training. So you've got transportation. I think, again, this is very reasonable. So I support that.
Dave, and then hopefully we can vote. Oh,
Uh,
Kelly's up here. Okay, hold on.
I would make a motion to approve
We already have a motion in a second.
you're correct.
That's all right. Well, let me let Kelly comment and then we will vote. Go ahead.
I just have a quick question. I'm sorry. So the people that pick up from the vote by mail drop-offs, are those election judges as well?
They are, but they wouldn't be part of this.
They wouldn't be part of that.
That's
Okay,
correct.
this is only for the election day that we're talking about. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, since we didn't have a clean roll last time, I think we'll need a roll call on this, unless anybody has any other questions. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, I have to turn your mic on.
Berkowitz?
Yeah.
Butler? Ortiz? Oxley?
Yes.
Trainier?
Yes.
Winfrey? Newquist?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, uh-oh, my screen's blank, hold on. Okay, other new business, we have none. Public comment, anybody from the public that wants to comment? One more time, public comment. Announcements and reports by the chair, I have none. We don't need an executive session. So our next meeting is scheduled for June 3rd, 2025, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. This is a long meeting.